So good morning everyone. My name is Rizani M. Logronio. I am the first reporters, chapter 5, which is the theory of firm production and cost. So, production inputs and outputs. Production refers to any economic activity which combines the four factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, to form an output that will give direct satisfaction to consumers. It includes material goods, which is foods, shirts, shoes, computers, cars, and etc. Or provision of any services, haircut, massage, hotel services, etc. that satisfy the wants of people. So, ang kalagahan ng production ay ito ay isang mahalagang gawain ng isang ekonomiya dahil paglikha ng mga produkto ay naisasagawa upang matugunan ang pangailangan ng mga tao. So, when we speak of inputs, these are commodities and services that are used to produce goods and services. So, inputs are largely classified into three principal categories: land, labor, and capital. Land, or in mass, the natural resources represent the gift of nature to our productive processes. It includes those above and under the earth like forest products and mineral ores. So, kapag pinag-usapan natin ang mga inputs, ito ay ang mga kalakal at serbisyo na ginagamit upang makagawa ng mga kalakal at serbisyo. Ang input ay higit na inuri sa tatlong pangunahing kategorya: lupa, paggawa, at kapital. Ang lupa o ang malawakang likas na yaman ay kumakatawan sa regalong kalikasan sa ating mga produktibong proseso. Kabilang dito ang mga nasa itaas at ilalim ng lupa tulad ng mga produktong gubat, trusol at mineral ores. So, outputs are the various useful goods and services that result from the production process and are either consumed or employed in further production. Goods and services that are ultimately consumed are called final goods, while those that are used to produce other goods are referred to as intermediate goods. So, example ng outputs, naghihimo da ng mga goods like the clothes that we wear, the notebooks, the pen that we use, etc. Intermediate goods, on the other hand, includes tires used in the production of Honda cars, sugar in the marketing of cakes and candles, etc. So, technology, labor-intensive or capital-intensive. Technology is the body of knowledge applied to how goods are produced. In other words, technology is the production process employed by firms in creating goods and services. Technology can be classified into two broad categories: labor-intensive and capital-intensive. So, technology can be classified into two broad categories, which is, first is labor-intensive. So, the labor-intensive, ito ay tumutukoy sa isang proseso o industriya na nangailangan upang gumawa ng mga kalakal at serbisyo nito. So, second is capital-intensive. So, ito ay tumutukoy sa antas na ang isang kumpanya ay dapat mamumuhunan ng pera sa pisikal o pinansyal na mga ari-arian upang makagawa ng isang kita. So, next, short run versus long run. When we try to distinguish short run and long run, we should remember that economics do not partition production decision based on any specific numbers of days, months, or years. Instead, the distinction depends on the ability to vary the quantity of inputs or economic resources used in the production of a goods or services. such as raw materials, labor, machineries, equipment, etc. So accordingly, production inputs are classified into two types, which is fixed inputs and variable inputs. So fixed inputs is any resource the quantity of which cannot readily be changed when market condition indicate that a change in output is desirable. So ang fixed input is matagalan na materyales na mahirap baguhin sa madaling panahon. Like for example, fixed inputs includes the plant and building that the firms uses as well as the machinery and equipment. So variable, which is on the other hand, is any economic resource the quantity of which can be easily changed in reaction to change in output level. So, variable inputs, which is maski anong oras pwede itong palitan or baguhin. So next is production function. A production function is the functional relationship between quantities of inputs used in production and outputs to be produced. In other words, the production function specifies the maximum output that can be produced with a given quantity or of inputs given the existing technology of a firm. So, production possibility curve, in order to see a firm efficiently producing its goods and services, we have to understand the production possibility curve. On the production possibility frontier, PPF, the PPF is a curve which shows the combination of two or more goods and services that can be produced by making efficient use of all available factor resource or the factor of production. Hence, when a firm is not producing quantities indicated by the PPF, resources are being managed efficiently. The graph of the PPC is shown in the figure 5.1. So, makita natin ang figure 5.1 production possibility curve. So, ang mga puntos sa E, B, at C sa curve ay posibilidad ng production ay nagbibigay daan sa kombinasyon ng mga kalakal na maaring gawin sa mahusay na paggamit ng mga mapagkukunan. Ang mapagkukunan ay mahusay na nagagamit kapag ang produksyon ng isang produkto ay hindi maaring tumaas nang hindi sabay na binabawasan ang produksyon ng isa pang produkto. Gaya ang nakikita sa figure 5.2 production possibility curve, mayroon kaming isang halimbawa ng isang firm na gumagawa lamang ng dalawang produkto na tila at cotton points. So, AB at care sa PPC na nangangahulugang lahat ng mga mapagkukunan ay mahusay na ginagamit ng kumpanya. Gayunpaman, mayroon ding mga punto sa labas ng PPC points sa ibaba ng PPC tulad ng point D na nagpapahiwatig ng hindi mahusay sa paggamit ng mga mapagkukunan kung kaya't hindi gaanong ginagamit ang mga ito. Habang ang mga punto sa labas ng curve sa halimbawa sa point F. So, ang nagpapahiwatig ay magiging imposible para sa kumpanya upang makagawa ng antas ng output na ito dahil sa kasalukuyang ang mga mapagkukunan ng kumpanya nangahulugan ito ng nasa point D. Ang kumpanya ay hindi gumagawa ng sapat na tila o trigo dahil sa mga mapagkukunan nito at upang maabot ang point F, dapat mayroong paglago o pagtaas ng mga mapagkukunan ng kumpanya. So next is total average and marginal production. So total product refers to the total output proceed after utilizing the fixed and variables inputs in the production process. Fixed inputs are components of production which do not change, like machineries and equipment. On the other hand, variable inputs are the changeable resources in the production, such as raw materials and numbers of laborers. So total product is designated in physical units like kaban of rice, numbers of rubber shoes, number of t-shirts, etc. So column 2 of table 5.1 illustrate the concept of total product. In this example, we can see how total product responds as the amount of labor applied is increased in the production of t-shirts. The total of product start at 0 to 0 labor and then increase as the additional labor is employed, reaching a maximum of 82 units of t-shirts when the 10 units of labor are used. So, makita natin sa figure 5.2 production possibility curve. When there is an increase in the capacity of the firm's production, such as technology improvement or more endowment from natural resources, such as discovery of more gold or services, the PPC shift outward. So, in the table, we can observe the marginal product starts at 8 units of t-shirts. For the first unit of labor, they increase to 12 units. So, when another unit of labor is added, but as we add more and more labor, the marginal products feel negative 4 units for the 10th unit of labor added. Marginal product calculations such as these are crucial for understanding how wages and other factors prices are determined. The final concept in the production theory is the average product, which equals total product divided by total units of input used. The fourth column of table 5.1 show the average product of labor, 8 units per worker with the 1 worker, 10 units per worker with 2 workers, and so forth. So in this example, average first increase reaches its maximum at 14 units. Thereafter, it falls successively as more workers are added. So, next is graphical presentation of TPMP and average product and NEP. So, the table shows the total amount of the figure shows the total marginal and average products. Total product increase at a decreasing rate, while marginal and average product first increase reach the maximum and thereafter decline. Next is graphical presentation of TP, NP, and EP. So figure 5.3 total marginal and average product. So we can also illustrate the concept of total marginal and average product that we have discussed using a graph. So the curve in figure 5.3 are derived by plotting the data from table 5.1. So as we can see the figure 5.3, the total product curve rises as additional labor are added, holding other inputs constant. However, take note that total product rises by smaller and holding other inputs constant. However, take note that total product rises by smaller and smaller increments as additional labor. So, In fact, there will come a point that marginal product will become zero or negative, implying that the additional worker contributes nothing to the output. So if we add more sewers to a single sewing machine, beyond some point in our hypothetical example, after the fifth worker, the extra output that the fifth sewer added the less than the extra output that the fourth worker added. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone. Now I will discuss the output and revenue of the firm until the theory of cost. Output and revenue of the firm. As firm aim to increase profit, a consideration of its employed factors of production must also be reviewed. In this situation, a firm is kailangan niyang timbangin ang gastos laban sa benefit of acquiring each unit in order for them to know kung kailan nila itataas ang inputs for as long as it is profitable to do so. Then we can derive the total revenue and the marginal revenue product of the firm by using this formula. The formula is total revenue equals price times quantity. It is also important to know about the marginal revenue product. The MRP is the change or the increase in revenue resulting from the output produced by one additional unit or MPP of the variable input. The MRP is the additional revenue generated by employing an additional factor input. MPP is the marginal physical product, which is computed as the change in the quantity of output divided by the changes in the quantity of the factors input. This is the table of production and revenue schedule of t-shirt. The table shows the marginal revenue product, which helps in the marginal analysis in studying the effect of variable inputs or labor. As labor increases, the revenue decreases at a certain point by each additional unit. Have you noticed the decline in the MRP? This is because ang marginal productivity of the factor input, kasi according to the law of diminishing marginal returns, because of MPP at a certain point it will also decline. Therefore the MRP will also eventually diminish or go to the same downward direction. Then let's proceed to the law of diminishing returns. Using production functions, we can understand one of the most famous law in economics, the law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns holds that we will get less and less extra output when we add additional dose of an input while holding other inputs. In other words, the marginal product of each unit of input which decline as the amount of that input increases, holding all the other inputs constant, according to Samuelson and Nordhaus in 2005. Then there are also other definition of law of diminishing returns. It expresses a very basic relationship. Is successive units of variable resources, in our example, the sewer example of that, are added to a fixed set of resources, say that sewing machine, beyond some point of extra or marginal product attributable to each additional unit of the variable resource decline. Example na niyon is the more sewer added upang ang manahi ay ng mga t-shirt gamit ang sewing machine kay then ang sewing machines ay mas mas naging masiksikan siya kay because the marginal product of the additional ng manahi ay will decline. What does this imply? What does this imply? This simply tells us that the more and more variable inputs are used to a fixed input, then the contribution of the extra unit of variable input are added declines. Then the increasing marginal returns. Increasing marginal returns happens when the marginal product of an additional worker exceeds the marginal product of the previous worker. We can also say that there is increasing marginal returns when a small number of workers are employed and arise from increased specialization and division of labor in the production process. Example na ini is example na nini is if you as a manager of a garments, you have one worker, kibali may isa ka worker, then kana na tao must learn all the aspects of making a t-shirts, like cutting ng mga clothes, paghimo ng mga patterns, putting buttons, etc. Then nag-hire ka ng isa ka person. Then that two workers na yaon ka is now specialized in a different aspects of production processes. Ang result ana is ang marginal product ng second workers is greater than the marginal product of the first worker. In this case, ang marginal product is increasing. Then in decreasing marginal returns, all production process eventually reach a point of decreasing marginal returns. Decreasing marginal returns occur when the marginal product of an additional worker is less than the marginal product of the previous worker hired to do the same task. Decreasing marginal returns arise from the fact that more and more workers use in the same equipment and workspace. Thus, as more and more workers are employed, there is less and less that is production for additional worker to do. Example na ini. Example for this is two workers are less than twice as productive as one worker because the machine is utilized by other workers. Ibali hiring yet another manahiay will continue to increase output pag once na mag-hire ka ng other sewer, but increase output, but at some point the total product will stop rising. Stop rising siya kay ang decreasing marginal returns means that the marginal product of the variable input decreases. Then in returns to scale, diminishing returns and marginal product refers to the response of output to an increase of a single input when all other inputs are held constant. We have noted in our example that increasing the number of sewers while holding sewing machine constant would increase t-shirt production by ever smaller increments. There are three important cases should be distinguished. The constant return to scale, increasing return to scale, and decreasing return to scale. In constant return to scale indicates a case where a change in all inputs leads to a proportional change in output rather. For instance, if ang farmland number of farmers and other farm inputs are doubled, kaya nagdoble siya, then we can assume na under this condition, ang rice production would also double. Then in increasing return to scale, also called economic of scale, happen when a increase in all inputs lead to a more than proportional increase in the level of output. For example na ini, a farmer will generally find the increasing the input of labor, mga irrigation, mga fertilizers, or mga pesticides by 10%, then it will increase the total rice production by more 10%. Then in the last And in the last case, the decreasing return to scale, it is occur when a balance increase in all inputs lead to a less than proportional increase in total output. In many processes, scaling up may eventually reach a point beyond which inefficiency set in. This may arise because the cost of management or control becomes larger. For example, if ang input is increase by 3 times pero ang output mo reduce ng 2 times, ang firm nang yaon or the economy has experienced decreasing returns to scale. Amayaon siya. Then the last one is the theory of cost. In business firm, the costs are half the picture. The other half is sales or total revenue. Cost refers to all expenses acquired during the economic activity or the production of goods or services. It includes expenditures incurred for the utilizations of the various factors of productions in the creation of goods. Total revenue is equal to the price of the good multiplied by the total product or the quantity sold. It states that the cost of business is highly determined its supply and spendings. It needs to be understood in detail by mga economists to run their company ug mo increase up ang profit and productivity. Then the equation that every business person knows better than anything else in this world is sales minus cost equals profit, or total revenue minus cost equals profits. That's all for my report. Thank you.
Morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I am General Lozada, the third reporter of Group 5. So my topic is all about the firm's goal. These are the fundamental goals of a firm. So first one is the high quality product. Then the second one is the business growth. And then the market share and the employment and workforce satisfaction. So those are the fundamental firm goals. So the question here is, if these are not the fundamental goals, why do firm exist in the economy? So kung dili ito amuan mga fundamental goal nan kuan isa ka firm, so na nga naga-exist saan mga nagkalailahin ng mga company sa ato kuman society. It is simply because the basic from goal of a firm is to minimize its profit. So amo yung goal niya is to minimize the profit. That is why ang mga firms kuman or yan mga nagkalailahin ng mga business is nag-exist sa gayud siya sa ato economy kuman. Then let us proceed to opportunity cost. It says here that we can therefore say that the highest valued alternative for gun is the opportunity cost of a firm's production. From the viewpoint of the firm, this opportunity cost is the amount that the firm must pay the owners of the factors of production its employees to attract them from their best alternative use. So a firm's opportunity cost is of production is the cost of the factors of production it employs. So to clearly understand what is really opportunity cost, I will give you an example. I will be a manager din. Papilion ako kung work or vacation. So kibali lang talang pilion ko kibali ang vacation instead sa work. So opportunity na yadto nimo na maka earn ka pero gipili mo ang vacation. So nawala nang imo opportunity cost. So amo yan kibali an example ng opportunity cost. Kibali yaon you missed out on choosing one alternative over another. So kibali ya miss out mo yadton isa kay gipili mo ya din isa. So iya gipili an vacation instead of work. Baliga vacation siya. Gipakilid niya ang work niya. So ya miss out niya an opportunity cost. The next one is explicit and implicit cost. So explicit costs are payments to non-owners of a firm for their resources. such as labor or the use of buildings. In other words, these are the expenses made for the use of resources not owned by the firm itself. So example of explicit costs include wages paid to labor, rental charges or for a plant or office building, cost of electricity and phone bills, cost of raw materials, among others. These resources are owned by such resource owners and must be purchased with actual payment to this outsider. So, ato na sa iya daan statement, ato na siya masabtan na ang explicit are the expenses made for the use of resources not owned by the firm. So, kibali ang mga resources na dili wara gitag iyan ng company. So, uno sa na mga resources. So, say for example, kibali, yun kilaw nga di, the use of building. So, kibali, ang iyo gigamit na building is, kibali, yaki rent da ka mo. So, magbayad ka muna niyaon, o electric bills, mga rental bills. So, amo yan siya sa explicit. So, amo kibali ang gitawag na explicit kay dili na sila ang tag-iya. Kay hadyan sa electric bill, lahi na sa nila gatag-iya na niya na company, so ngadto sila mismo magbayad. So whereas sa implicit cost, galaw nga di, on the other hand are the opportunity cost of using resource owned by the firm. These are the opportunity cost of resources because the firm makes no actual payment to outsiders. So opposite siya sa explicit and implicit. Kay an implicit is the using of resource owned by the firm. So, gitag-iyahan siya nan kaugalingon nila na company. So, sa ila mismo ang mga resources. So, these are the examples of implicit costs. The use of owner's car, computer, or other personal equipment to conduct business. So, amo yan siya an example ng implicit cost. Economic profit. A firm's economic profit equals total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue is the amount received from the side at the sale of the product. It is the price of the output multiplied by the quantity sold. Total cost is the sum of the explicit cost and implicit cost and is the opportunity cost of production. Because one of the firm's implicit cost is normal profit. The return to the entrepreneur equals normal profit plus economic profit. If a firm incur an economic loss, the entrepreneur receives less than normal profit. So para makuha nato si economic profit, ato i-determine ang total revenue, then i-minus nato sa total cost. So, what are those total revenue? So, total revenue is the amount received from the sale of the product. So, kung ano ito ng ka-sell na product, sale of the product, amo yan to siya ang total revenue niyo. And sa total cost sub, is i-add mo da ang imo explicit cost and implicit cost o gan opportunity cost of production. So, amo yan to siya, i-total mo yan to siya, i-add mo ang sa explicit, implicit, o opportunity cost, amo na dayon siya ang imo total cost. So, yaon na dayon ang imo total revenue o total cost, so i-minus mo dayon sila duha. Amo na dayon ang result sa iya economic profit. Total fixed cost, total variable cost, and total cost. As production expands in the short run, costs are divided into two basic categories: total fixed cost and total variable cost. So total fixed cost or TFC consists of costs that do not vary as output varies and that must be paid even if output is zero. These are payments that the firm must make in a short run regardless of the level of output. This implies that even if a firm does not produce any output, it must still pay rent, property taxes, etc. So even though the firm does not produce any output, so obliged gid gihapon sila na mo bayad ng sa rent sa property or taxes or sa uban pa. So amo yung siya ang sa total fixed cost. Kumbaga, naka-fix na siya. Total variable cost or TVC consists of costs that are zero when output is zero and vary as output increase or decrease. This cost related to the cost of variable inputs. Example include wages for daily workers, raw materials, electricity, and fuel consumptions. So a firm uses more inputs to produce output. Its variable cost will increase. If this is the case, management can control variable cost in the short run by simply changing the level of output of the firm. So given total cost and total variable cost, the firm can calculate total cost or TC. Total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and total variable. So cost at each level of output, thus TC is equals to TFC plus TVC. So illustrate the so an iya formula is total cost is equals to total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So amo diyan iya formula. And then as we can observe, fixed cost does not change with output. Thus, in our example, it is 100 pesos even if output increases. Column 2 shows the variable cost. Unlike the fixed cost, variable cost changes as more output is produced. Thus, the first output variable cost is 40 pesos. For the second output, is increased to 600 pesos. And then in column 3 is the total cost. Total cost is simply total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Therefore, we can see that total cost increases as more and more output is produced because of the change in variable cost. So, amo ini siya sa table, makita natin. So, that's all in my report. Thank you.
So good day everyone. I am Carl James Dargadas and I will be the one to report the average cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost, and average total cost. So before anything else, I would like to introduce to you first the average costs. So average costs, it is the total cost by the total output, or it is expressed, or the formula of that is AC is equals to TC over Q. Q means the total output, and then the TC is the total costs. So for example, for the average cost, the weighted average cost is the total inventory purchased in the quarter, 113,300. So it is divided by the total inventory count from the quarter, which is 100. So 113,000 divided by 113,300 divided by 100 is equals to 1,133, and that is the average cost per unit. So the marginal cost or the MC is the cost of producing one additional unit of output. Marginal analysis asks how much it costs to produce an additional unit of output. So amin ni siya ang formula. The MC is equals to TC over Q. The TC sub 2 minus TC sub 1 over Q sub 2 minus Q sub 1. So in additional, marginal cost, it refers to the increase in the production cost generated by the production of additional products units. So the marginal cost, it is calculated the marginal cost. Calculating marginal cost allows companies to see how the volume output influences the costs. So, for the yun, in graphical illustration, amon siya ang graph sa mga short run cost schedule. Kibali pa ubo siya, aw pa taas siya. Then maiya improvement na nahitabo. So, the same nagyapan sa graphical illustration sa short run schedule. So, the decision to operate or shut down. A firm has two options in the short run. It can either operate or shut down. If it operates, it will produce the output that will provide the highest possible profit to the firm. If it is losing money, it will operate at the output at which losses are minimized. So, in business, we all know that we need to have a higher profit para mas molambo siya og mas mo boom or mo improve pa siyang business. So we need to apply the operating or the shutdown decision para mas moiwas kita sa bankruptcy. That is the reason why we need to have a decision, a clear decision. So for the concept of profit maximization, so the profit maximization, it is ask any business's owner why he or she went into a business and chances are he or she will answer to make money. This is not too easy to say, however, that every businessman is in the business because he or she wants to amass money. So in other words, it is an approach that can enable efficient and sustained business growth. So, yan, kibali siya ang mag-sustain sa isa ka business para mas mo boom pa siya, mas mo patok pa kibali ang isa ka business. So, we need to have profit maximization, yun, to evaluate the maximum or the highest ratings of our profit in a certain businesses. So for the efficiency, sa tanan nato nagikuan sa tanan mga business, it is very important to seek efficiency because it is the ability that we achieve a goal or in a certain business lang pa nila na nato makita kung mas may boom bagay ang ato isa ka business yaon sa tanan isa yaon kibali on pa na term yan mas nag fruitful kibali nga to business yon layo da ka yon avoid bankruptcy ingana then yaon dan good way in avoiding a bankruptcy. That's why we need to have a clear decision before we enter or seek more information before we need to go in a business.